Welcome to Unspoken Affairs. In today's video, I need to ask you something before we get started. If you haven't already, please take a moment to subscribe to this channel. It means the world to me, and it helps us bring you more incredible stories like this one. Thank you so much. Now, let me take you into a story that began as an ordinary day and ended up changing my life in ways I could never have imagined. It all started with something so small. Something most people would brush off without even a second thought. The sun was filtering gently through the curtains that morning. The house was quiet, and I thought the day would pass just like any other. But life has a way of surprising us when we least expect it. I had no idea that a simple decision to walk upstairs instead of staying in the kitchen would alter the course of everything. I knew the moment began innocently enough. I was walking through the hallway when I noticed a faint sound, almost imperceptible at first, coming from the room at the end of the hall. I paused, frowning, wondering if I had imagined it. But then I heard it again, and curiosity tugged at me. Maybe he was watching something on his computer. Maybe just music. Or maybe he needed something. It wasn't unusual, and yet something about the way the door was slightly open stirred something inside me. I hesitated. I could have ignored it. I could have gone back downstairs, made myself a cup of coffee, and gone about my day. But I didn't. Instead, I let my feet carry me closer, step by step, until I was standing in front of the door. That was the moment everything changed. Because when I leaned forward and caught sight of what was inside, I froze. Elliot, he was sitting there on his bed, laptop balanced on his knees, the screen glowing brightly against his face. His posture was stiff, his expression distracted. And for a moment, I thought he was just deeply focused on whatever he was watching. But then my eyes adjusted, and in an instant, I realized this wasn't something I was meant to see. My breath caught in my throat, a cold shiver rushing down my spine. I wasn't supposed to be here. I wasn't supposed to see this. I could have turned away, could have pulled the door shut quietly, and pretended I had never been there. But I didn't. For a fraction of a second too long. My eyes lingered, and in that moment, everything changed. Elliot scrambled, his hands fumbling across the keyboard, his face flushing deep red as he slammed the lid of his laptop shut. His eyes flicked to mine, wide, embarrassed, filled with a kind of panic I had never seen before. I gasped, stumbling backward, my words tangled as I tried to form a sentence. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to. I stammered, but the words came out broken. Meaningless. The silence between us was unbearable. My heart pounded in my chest, and I could feel the heat rising in my cheeks. I didn't know what to do, didn't know how to fix what had just happened. Finally, I turned and hurried down the hall, pressing my hands to my face as if I could erase the memory of what I had seen. What had I done? Why had I been so careless? I whispered to myself, my thoughts spiraling into chaos. But deep down, I knew this wasn't just about me stumbling into the wrong room at the wrong time. No, this was something more. Something that had been quietly growing beneath the surface without me even realizing it. That evening, we didn't speak. At dinner, the silence was heavier than ever. The clink of silverware against plates echoed in the air, but no words were exchanged. It was as if both of us were waiting for the other to break the tension, but neither dared. We had lived in the same space for years, had shared countless conversations, laughter, and casual moments. But now everything felt different, changed, irreversibly so. The following days passed in much the same way. We avoided each other's eyes, avoided small talk, avoided being in the same room for too long. But the silence wasn't empty, it was charged, humming with unspoken words and unresolved emotions. Every glance, every accidental brush of movement, carried with it a weight that was impossible to ignore. Finally, after what felt like forever, Elliot broke the silence. One afternoon, as I was sitting at the table, he sat down across from me. His posture was tense, his fingers tapping nervously against the wood as he cleared his throat. "Darlene," he began softly, his voice wavering, "about the other day. I'm really embarrassed. I didn't want you to see that. I'm sorry. Please, I don't want this to ruin things between us." His words hit me like a wave. I looked at him, and for the first time since that moment, I saw the sincerity in his eyes. He wasn't just embarrassed. He was worried. Worried about what it meant for us, for the way we lived together, for the fragile balance that had been disrupted. I took a deep breath, forcing a small smile as I reached for reassurance. "Oh, Elliot, don't worry. Believe me, I've had my fair share of embarrassing moments. You don't need to feel bad. Let's just forget about it." For a brief moment, I thought that was the end of it. I thought we had managed to smooth over the awkwardness, to put the incident behind us and move on. But deep down, I knew better. Something had shifted that day. Something that couldn't be undone with a few kind words. Because now, the silence wasn't just uncomfortable, it was filled with something else. Something unspoken. Something dangerous. Days turned into weeks, and slowly things between us began to change. We started talking again, casually at first, then more often. We'd sit together in the living room, watching movies, exchanging small jokes, and sharing stories. On the surface, it all looked normal. But beneath the surface, there was something more. Every time our hands brushed, every time our laughter overlapped, every time our eyes lingered a fraction too long, I felt it. And I knew he felt it too. It was a quiet tension, growing stronger with every passing day. An invisible thread pulling us closer and closer, no matter how hard I tried to resist. I told myself it was nothing, that I was imagining things, but deep down I knew the truth. This wasn't just in my head. One evening, as we sat together on the couch, Elliot leaned slightly closer, his voice low. "You know," he said, almost hesitantly, "I've seen you differently before. You just didn't know it." My heart skipped a beat, my breath catching as his words sank in. I turned to him, frowning slightly. "What do you mean?" He hesitated, his gaze flicking away before returning to mine. His cheeks flushed, but he didn't stop. I've noticed things. About you. Things I probably shouldn't have. But I did." The air between us grew heavy, charged with unspoken meaning. My pulse quickened, my thoughts racing. I didn't know what to say, didn't know how to respond. But in that moment, I realized that the boundaries we had once lived within had completely vanished from that day forward. Everything changed. We spent more time together, each moment blurring the lines we had once respected. The tension between us grew unbearable, and no matter how much I tried to push it away, it kept pulling me back. I found myself thinking about him constantly, replaying his words, his glances, his presence. And then came the night that changed everything. Elliot came home late, his steps unsteady, his voice slurred from the drinks he'd had. I rushed to meet him, worried he would wake the whole house with his noise. "You have to be quiet," I whispered urgently, guiding him inside. He looked at me then, his eyes hazy but filled with something raw, something honest. "Darlene," he mumbled, his words heavy with emotion. "Do you know how beautiful you are? Have you always been this way? Or did I just never notice?" My breath caught. I tried to brush it off, to tell him he was drunk, that he didn't know what he was saying. But deep down, I knew those words came from somewhere real. Somewhere he had kept hidden until now. I helped him to his room, steadying him as he stumbled. My hands brushing against his as I tried to unbutton his shirt so he could change. The air between us was thick with tension. Every movement slow, deliberate, charged with meaning. And then, in the quiet of that room, with only the dim light casting shadows on the walls, Elliot looked at me with a certainty I had never seen before. His voice was steady, firm, as he whispered, "I'm not playing this game anymore, Darlene. And I know you're not either." I froze, my heart pounding, my thoughts in chaos. I wanted to deny it, to tell him he was wrong, but I couldn't, because I knew he was right. That night changed everything. It shattered the last of the boundaries between us, leaving nothing but the truth exposed. And once that truth was out, there was no going back. The days that followed were filled with moments I can't forget. Moments of laughter, of closeness, of secrets shared in whispers and glances. But also moments of fear, of guilt, of the knowledge that we were walking a dangerous path that could never stay hidden forever. Because no matter how careful we were, no matter how much we tried to keep it contained, the truth has a way of surfacing. And I knew deep down that one day George would find out. And when he did, everything would come crashing down. But until that day, we lived in our secret world. A world where silence said more than words ever could. Where glances carried entire conversations. Where every moment was a delicate balance between desire and fear. And that's where I'll leave you for now. Because this story isn't over. Not even close. What happened next was bigger, more intense, and far more dangerous than anything before. And when it all came to light, nothing would ever be the same again. So if you want to know how this story unfolds, make sure you're subscribed, turn on notifications, and stay tuned. Because trust me, you don't want to miss what happens next. Thank you for listening.